everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and this is our off-road POV for the Honda Passport. I know this is a weird starting place. I was originally going to go into the cave, but there's a lot of standing water that's, well, is hiding some very large rocks that I can't move out of the way. And I know that you might think, well, why would you have to move them out of the way? The Honda Passport has 8.1 inches of ground clearance, which is great for a crossover. Not so great when you have rocks that are a lot bigger than 8.1 inches. And so, yes, we are backing out as the first part of our POV. And that's something that is very important for off-roading, is knowing where to, well, stop, basically. But anyways, now that we are out of the cave of death, and also there was a giant bug. It's like the biggest bug I've ever seen in my life. It was flying too. It was like bright red. I don't know what it was, but it kept like, as soon as I moved, it would like fly away. So it seemed like pretty smart. But let's actually talk about how this drives off-road. And you guys can see I've got the torque split here for you. And first off, I'm actually pretty surprised by how capable this is. Now, the ground clearance has gotten in the way with several things I've been filming for the main channel, where I've like scraped the sides slightly, underneath, and then also the front a little bit. But it's a good thing they have plastic there, so it doesn't feel bad. And the other thing is, this has independent front and independent rear suspension. And so what that means is there's pretty much no articulation. And so you just have to get used to going on, you know, three wheels a lot if you're gonna be going on camping adventures. And this is something that a lot of people don't realize with modern crossovers, is they're all going for, again, independent suspension, which is great for on-road ride quality, not so great for articulation. Now this stuff right here is not too crazy. Yeah, you guys can see there, three wheels. Woo! That feels so weird, being on three wheels in a Honda. You know what? Oh, there's the rock again. So just, oh, there we go. Scrapes against the little plastic underneath. So as long as I don't hit that plastic super hard, should be fine. Once we're down this first section, I'll check though, make sure that there's no leaking or anything like that. In that case, we'll have to call a tow truck probably, which would actually be my first time. And yeah, so that was the hard part. Notice that I was just all brake with it. This doesn't have a very aggressive axle ratio. Man, it's so tippy. So it goes down pretty quickly. And what gear is it in? It's in first gear. So even in first gear, it rolls pretty quick. So I'm on the brake a lot. And again, this is pretty typical for modern crossovers. And so hopefully this kind of helps you guys out if you are looking at, you know, potentially doing some fun, you know, camping adventures with your modern crossover like the Passport. So you know exactly what you're dealing with. There you go. So you guys can see that was pretty, you know, pretty easy. Obviously we bottomed out in that rock, and again, that's kind of the limitation of this. 8.1 inches of ground clearance was a lot back in the day, but you know, in terms of my off-road course, it's not a lot. The only way to get through this course without bottoming out, frankly, is to have at least 10 inches of ground clearance. If you have 10 inches, then you should be able to clear most of it, but you have to angle it depending on the suspension setup. If you have a, you know, unibody construction with independent front rear suspension, you got to angle a lot. Okay, gonna quickly check it out and then I'll get back to you guys. Okay, so we are all good, and I'm sure that's why Honda has that plastic covering there, is for protection. Obviously, you know, a real metal skid plate would be preferable, but this isn't like a super high speed off-roader, and I don't think that Honda intended people to really like rock crawl with this. Again, I think they intended people to go on trails like this, hence the name TrailSport. And so, you know, if you're driving slow, and if you're driving on trails that's mostly sand, and again, there's not even a rock mode with this, there's a snow mode, there's a sand mode, and there's a mud mode. So if you're driving in those conditions, then just having plastic should be fine, should be. But obviously there's circumstances where it won't be enough. In my case, it hit the plastic and nothing else, so we're good so far. Now, ride comfort's actually pretty decent. There's not a lot of suspension travel, so again, you can't drive fast with this. Let's see if this rock hits. Let's play this game. Does this rock hit the bottom? No, we're good. So yeah, since there's not a ton of suspension travel, you want to drive pretty dang slow. The independent suspension does help out with soaking things up quite a bit, but still, it's definitely just a slow cruiser. That being said though, if you have like a flat dirt road, which is what I have to drive on to get here, it's actually pretty decent. I was able to get up to speed like 50-60 miles an hour on that dirt road. If I have enough runtime in this video, I'll just quickly show. It's not super exciting because it's like a straight road, but I'll just quickly show a little clip of me driving on it. But yeah, the suspension actually does a pretty good job on that road. You guys probably noticing most of the torque is being sent to the rear wheels. That's something that I've noticed that's pretty interesting here with the Passport off-road, because on-road, when you're in the normal mode, it actually sends most of the torque to the front wheels. And so it's interesting that it's completely changing it. And in certain circumstances where I've lost a lot of traction, it sent all the power to the rear wheels. No power on the front wheels at all. And so, I mean, it's gotten me out of the situation, so obviously it's worked. I just don't know if that's going to be perfect for every situation, because if you have all the power to the rear wheels, then that's how you dig yourself into a hole sometimes, especially if it's muddy. So yeah, I mean, you guys can see this is nothing too crazy, but it's able to, the Passport's able to handle trails like this. And again, this is a campsite, for example, that you could use. So, you know, the Passport does have the ability to get to the campsite, although slowly. And, you know, as long as you don't have crazy rock obstacles you have to go through, then you should be fine. And if you want to see this, you got to go on the main channel. Because, yeah. Okay, we are going to cap off our off-road POV with some promised higher speed off-roading with the Passport. And again, I still have the all-wheel drive split shown here. And you guys will notice it'll be a little bit more even on this type of trail. But notice I'm able to go pretty dang quick. The suspension's comfortable enough. And again, this is a trail that doesn't have a lot of compression points. And what I mean by that is there's not a lot of up and down. There's some turns in this initial part. But yeah, I mean, the fact that I'm able to go over 40 miles an hour and in relative comfort, I think it's pretty impressive, honestly. And the tires handle it fine. It tracks very straight. That's one of the things that's great about, oh, this is a bad cattle guard. That's one thing that's great about these unibody SUVs, crossovers, whatever you want to call them, with independent front and rear suspension, is, you know, handling on-road's great, handling off-road's also great as well. Now, whereas if I was in my Wrangler, for example, I'd be tracking all over the road. I'd have to constantly correct with the steering, whereas this, you know, honestly, I can just pretty much just drive like this. And I will say, I know this is one of the least exciting off-road POVs that I've done, but there's just, this is more of like a super entry-level off-roader. This isn't, you know, most people never take this off-road, basically. This isn't, you know, dedicated towards off-roading. This is basically a crossover that's been given some all-terrain tires and some cool looks. That is pretty much the gist of this package. But tires do quite a bit. And so with just those tires and this amazing all-wheel drive system that Honda has, this is able to do quite a bit. It's able to punch way above what you would normally think that something of this setup would be able to handle. And you guys can see I'm able to go pretty dang fast, like, and comfortably as well. There's some pickup trucks that I'm not able to go that fast in this road because they just, you know, too much bumping. But I will say, one thing that this doesn't have over pickup trucks and other, you know, bought-in frame SUVs is ability to go over cattle guards fast. You have to slow down with this. This has so little suspension compression, not a lot of travel is what I mean, that yeah, it's it's best that you slow down over big bumps with this, unless you want to be in the Honda service department the next day, because again, ultimately this is not meant for super high speed off-roading, but you can go down dirt trails like this pretty fast as long as you know the trail. Something's up here with our little off-road POV for the Passport. Ground clearance, it's lacking slightly. You know, compared to like real off-roaders, compared to other crossovers, this is really good. It's very comfortable. Hey, here's the rain. I was waiting for it to happen. It's pretty comfortable. Tire grip is actually better than I thought it would be. No articulation, right? That's all vehicles in this segment. And then, you know, the all-wheel drive system, I think that's the big, like, shining star of this whole setup. Is this all-wheel drive system is pretty dang good. It's able to handle a lot more than I would expect something like this to be able to handle. And so, you know, in rain like this, snow, all that kind of stuff, you are not gonna have a problem whatsoever. Let's switch this to snow mode, since I know that seems weird, but we're not in mud, so we don't need the mud mode. But it's not sand anymore because it's wet. Oh, there's the bumps. There's the bumps. Yeah, but I know this, again, like I said, not the greatest video, but overall I'm impressed. I think this all-wheel drive system is really solid. And so, you know, as a daily driver that, you know, you want to drive in all 4 seasons, this would do an amazing job. If you want to go on fun camping adventures, look how small that, or small, look how slow that Hyundai has to go on this trail. It's the difference between a car and an SUV. With an SUV, you can actually carry a little bit of speed. Anyways, that's all for our off-road POV. Again, more of a road than a trail, but that'll sum things up.